All right, how's it going, everyone? So I want to kind of share with you something I've been kind of doing in my side project, and that is trying to figure out performance issues and just kind of fine tune the performance of my framework that I've been kind of working on as a little side project. So this is a project called Launchpad, which you can use to basically quickly spin up a REST API in Node. I wouldn't recommend using it. This is just a prototype. But one of the things I wanted to do was figure out like how long does a request take and where does a lot of the time get spent when I do a request. Okay, so I want to show you a nice little trick you can do. Obviously, the first thing you could probably do to get more performance issues and like performance metrics is you can go into your code and you could add console time statements. Okay, so for example, I want to figure out how long does this method take in combination with this method. So you can just go ahead and say like console.time and say like how long does this take. This is like your key you can use to track like an internal timer to get performance metrics. There's also a performance library that's built into Node you can use. I just like using console log. The resolution is not as good, but it's easier to like type than import some other thing. And then I'm going to say time end, and I'm going to use that same key. So the idea is you wrap the code that you basically want to measure how long stuff took. But like I'm saying, this is like the easy approach, the naive approach, and I am going to show you how to kind of get a flame graph set up. So stick around if you want to see that. But let's just go ahead and start the service. So let's just go here. I'll say npm run dev. That should start up by API. And then I can go to Thunder Client and I can go ahead and do a GET request to one of these. Here it is. Let's just do a GET request and let's see how long did it take to run that little segment of code. Now, when you do that, it says, how long does this take? That's the string we use for our key. And then it prints out the actual milliseconds that it took to run the code in between this and this. And you can kind of like get this more fine tuned and you can add more console times to like figure out, okay, how long does this take? But this can turn out to be kind of tedious, and there's actually kind of a better way to do this if you get more experienced and you're cool with like setting this stuff up. And that is setting up a profiler and getting a flame graph to really dive into the code and figure out like what's going on. So what I'm going to try doing is I'm going to go ahead and put a breakpoint here. And then I'm going to go ahead and just like, yeah, that should be good enough. I'll just put the breakpoint there. Let's save this, and what I'm going to do is I have a JavaScript debug terminal loaded. If you don't know how to get that, you basically go to the left, go to the play button with the little bug, you click JavaScript debug terminal, and that'll load a debug terminal. Now what this does is basically any Node or JavaScript command you run, it's going to automatically link up to VS Code. And so if you add breakpoints, you will see in just a second what happens. So now let's just go ahead and say npm run dev. And that's going to attach the debugger, as you can see printing out here, to my little REST API. And something that you can do is you can go ahead and make a request to the endpoint. And now your code's going to stop. Okay, now I have an extra breakpoint that I'm going to get rid of. I'm going to click this play, so it continues forward to the very next breakpoint that I added. Okay, so this is where I wanted to start the profiler. I want to figure out how much time does it take to kind of call all these methods and get a breakdown of like every method, how long it took, okay? So the cool thing that you can learn how to do is go over here to your call stack and go to the very last one. There is a little circle here. You click on this circle. It gives you the options to check the heap profile or the CPU profile. In this case, I want to see how long stuff takes to run. So we want to use the CPU profile, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and say manual. So what this does is it just starts profiling everything until you manually click stop. And this is actually the recommended way. Duration also works as well. So I'm just going to do manual, and that's actually going to continue on my breakpoint. And then I can just stop it and get a profiler, or to get a profile. So let's just click manual, and then that should have run. So let's just go ahead and stop it. And now we have this interesting breakdown of all the different methods that were called and how much time that method took to finish executing. Okay, so this isn't the best view. If you have a extension installed, let me go ahead and hide my face so you can see it. There is a little teeny little flame here, right? This is an extension I had to set up, and when you click it, it actually loads up the flame graph inside of your VS Code editor, right? So this is pretty useful. And you can zoom in and you can start seeing like how long did everything take to run, right? Let's just go ahead and zoom out too. And it's kind of hard to read through this stuff. Like a lot of this stuff is just like anonymous, and when you click onto it, it's going to dive you into the library. And unfortunately, yeah, so if you click it, it tells you like, where was this function loaded. This is Prisma calls. So a lot of this stuff is like Prisma doing its request to the database. I don't know why this says hi. There's a function called hi or something. But let's go over to this code because I'm hoping that there's some code over here that is more of the code that it's related to what I'm trying to debug. Okay, so over here it says shuttle index 104. Is this the place where I care about? Shuttle index 104. So this is here. I'm about to call. So this is when we get the response back, I believe, from some code. This is when I'm taking my response and basically running it through Zod. And then I believe this code is what's happening when Express tries to like prepare for writing back the JSON response. But you can kind of see if you hover over this, it tells you how many milliseconds did everything take, right? So this one was at 1.29 milliseconds. The Express sending it back was 1.25 milliseconds. The whole thing was 2.5. You got some logger stuff over here, which is taking 3.75 milliseconds to write a log. So if I were to look at this, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe every request shouldn't be logging because this is actually taking a large chunk of time, right? This is taking 3.75 milliseconds. But I mean, that's not a lot of time, right? That's kind of little. I will say I'm kind of a noob to flame graphs because I don't see where the code I had the breakpoint in is actually being called. Like, at what point is that actually being called? Because this is all the Prisma stuff. I'm guessing it's setting up Prisma. And this is all like when we get the response back from my function. The Zod stuff, anonymous, index, go to this. So I mean, like, since I'm here anyway, let's just go ahead and add more breakpoints and see if I can figure out what's going on. So let's just go ahead and add a breakpoint between here and here. And I'm going to try to run the profiler one more time. I should pause. Go ahead and click this. I'm going to say CPU, and I want to say pick breakpoint. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and pick the one that's down here, and that'll run the debugger all the way to that breakpoint, I believe. Let's just go ahead and click OK and see what happens. All right, so this actually gave us more information that we need. I'm going to hide my face real quick, but you can see we actually have a function called helper here. If you click that, this is how long this helper thing took to run. Go ahead and zoom back out. There's this parse on header complete, which I think is some Express stuff. And then we have promise before hook. Here's an anonymous function, line 90. Actually, so I found out what I was kind of looking for. So if you go down here, if you click on the actual function, such as run route, that'll actually give you a breakdown of the internal functions and how long those things took, I think. So here it's saying that the get handler files took 1.29 milliseconds, I believe, if I'm reading that correctly. And that called helpers inside of it. So that's kind of like how that works, I believe. But anyway, that's all I wanted to kind of share with you all. I'm still trying to like get a better handle on it because there's like some stuff that I'm like not sure how to get metrics on. Like, why didn't it have map route to file inside of that profiler, right? There's like stuff that's like missing, and I'm not sure why that stuff's not showing up. So I need to actually like go read up on it because I don't know what I'm doing. But if you enjoyed watching this little overview and you learned something new, give me a thumbs up. I also have a Discord you're welcome to join if you want to talk to me directly or just find a place to kind of ask questions, get help while you're learning the code. And yeah, like always, have a good day. Happy coding.